When it's time to scale your business, it's time for Shopify. Get everything you need to grow the way you want. Like, all the way. Stack more sales with the best converting checkout on the planet. Track your cha-chings from every channel, right in one spot. And turn real-time reporting into big-time opportunities. Take your business to a whole new level. Switch to Shopify. Start your free trial today.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Ever wonder where Tropicana got its name? The tropics. And every time you enjoy a glass, you're not just drinking juice, you're taking a trip. Stepping into sunshine and embarking on a flavorful journey into the tropics where ripe fruit is crafted into wildly delicious juice. And the best part? No passport required. Tropicana. Give life some juice.
Welcome back to DOCUFILES. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie.
Next week, we're going to be giving Untold on Netflix another whirl. We're going to be watching Untold, The Girlfriend That Didn't Exist. This week, of course, we are talking about the most hated man on the internet. When I say that I binged all 3 of these episodes, I did it in one night all the way through. Moved from the couch downstairs to the bed upstairs. I was not able to stop. Like, I had to see everything through. And to be honest, Natalie, I was really intrigued by the fact that I was unaware of all of this because we were the right age in the right area. Mm-hmm. So many people were touched by this scandal and aware of it, especially in Southern California. I was shocked.
I thought the same thing. I had no idea that this happened. We are similarly aged to Hunter Moore, the man at the center of this entire docuseries. I, too, was glued to the screen. I wanted to finish it all the way through. So I watched all 3 episodes in a row, like a little slug on the couch, just glued to the screen. I think it just was wild to me that obviously Hunter Moore didn't invent misogyny, but he did find a way to make it a business. He made a business model for it. He perpetuated it. He made money off of it. He calls himself famously a professional life ruiner, and that's really what he was. He ruined a lot of people's lives where they were literally begging him, please, Hunter, like, take my photo down. So it just is wild to see someone with so little, or not even little. He had no empathy, and be proud of it.
And no remorse we see as well. This is anyoneUp.com that Hunter Moore started. Really gave me the same vibes of a website that was started only a few years earlier, thedirty.com. And that also was pretty SoCal based. And it was a gossip website where people would post a picture. Like, let's say you got turned down by a girl or something like that. Douchebag was probably going to be posting her on the dirty, saying she's rotten or she smells. Sometimes they're a bit scantily clad. Maybe they were in a bathing suit and their body was being mocked, which is awful. But it was not like isanyoneup.com, where these are people's intimate photos. Many of them having never been sent to anybody or posted anywhere. These are young women that were taking pictures of themselves to have in a way of celebration for themselves, but like maybe they would eventually send it to somebody. But it was mostly for themselves in their room, which we learned from one of our main documentary participants, Kayla, and her mother, Charlotte. And we learned that these pictures that were ending up on the website and being mocked and ridiculed, like complete incel behavior on what came to be called the family, which creeped me out, by the way. It was like an incel cult, and they would mock and ridicule them. But again,
and they would do death threats to people that went against the family and Hunter Moore, their leader or their god. Some people refer to him as a god. Yeah, it just is wild how powerful this guy was.
They would dox people who were posted online. They would post their pictures of their houses, where they worked, dangerous stuff. And I'm sorry, by 2010, we knew better than that. I am sorry, but you knew it was not safe to put your place of work or your address online. They were actively wanting these women to be harmed. And Hunter even said that one time, like, oh, my next site is going to actually cause a murder, when he was going to be revamping what was Is Anyone Up? Absolutely preposterous.
You mentioned another website that this feels very similar to. What my brain immediately went to was I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. It was this book that came out in 2006 and then became a movie all about the sexual exploits of Tucker Max. It was full of misogyny and toxic behavior. And it feels like no matter where you were in the US, this is how people were behaving, misogynistic, toxic, cruel. A lot of women were hurt at the hands of these grotesque men.
It was like a elder millennial, maybe super late Gen X kind of boy vibe. That was the vibe. It was a true archetype of the time. I think we knew that it was bad and that it was wrong, but we were all reading I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. That book was celebrated. He didn't start getting canceled, if you will, until his next book. I remember reading his next book, and I did start getting the ick. And so I think it just kind of died out, because it kind of, again, just became an archetype. It became a thing that we finally started recognizing what that was.
I think what helped it die out was the Me Too movement. Also, our brains were fully developed by the time, that movement was happening. And so we were starting to realize, okay, we knew it wasn't okay, but this is no longer acceptable. This is not something that should even be tolerated.
And we weren't tolerating it anymore. We don't, and we weren't. These websites would not work today.
You know what? And that's why I love Charlotte Laws in this docuseries. She truly was not going to put up with it. And she wasn't just going to help her daughter and save her daughter. She was going to get and save as many people as she could. And really hats off to her, because she made a difference. And she didn't have to put herself in the position of getting doxxed, of getting death threats, of getting told that she would be sexually assaulted in her home. Thank goodness for people like Charlotte Laws. She held people accountable.
And Kayla, Charlotte's daughter as well, who had been posted on the site by her mom doing the investigative research she was doing on her own. She was also kind of putting the situation back out there. She mentions she did want to just put it behind her, because she did get her pictures taken down within a few days, because her stepdad basically called and said, you have however long to get these pictures down of my stepdaughter.
That dynamic was interesting to me. What did you think? So for our listeners, Charlotte is married to this powerful attorney in Los Angeles. This is where they're based out of. And initially, he was not in the know of what happened when Kayla's photos were posted online. And I can understand that. She was a young woman in her early 20s and didn't want her stepfather to know that she had taken a topless photo. I would be so embarrassed.
Just in her room.
She did it in her room.
She doesn't even really express why. It was just something she felt she wanted to do as a beautiful young woman, and she did it.
You should be allowed to. After breastfeeding for a year, I wish I would have taken some topless photos. I mean, not really. I don't know.
She's celebrating and commemorating her body. And if you can be that comfortable in your skin as a woman, I think that's important, because the world does everything to make us feel uncomfortable in our skin, and when we are comfortable, then we're doing too much. So good for her. I believe she was around 24, 23, 24 at this time, and she hadn't sent that photo anywhere. Thanks to Charlotte's investigative work, she speaks to other people on this, to your point of Charlotte not letting down. She could have. My daughter's photos are off this website. I don't have time to worry about anything else. Great. Moving on. No, she knew this is so wrong. And like you said, she continued at her own
peril. I mean, and I don't use that word lightly. It truly was, it could have been life or death for her. Not to understate this, but she's not a hacker. She's not law enforcement. She's not a tech executive. She's a mom, and she is a mom with a really cool background where she, was known, she had been a sort of a pseudo celebrity where she was known to get into all the celebrity parties. She would find a way. That tenacity she had as a young woman to get into parties. She even met a few presidents of the United States. She used that no back down personality trait of hers and used it to protect her daughter and other women like her daughter.
Of course, her daughter was this main motivating force. Her daughter being violated, I should say, was this motivating force. But Kayla's friend also ended up on the website, also had not sent those photos to anybody. And I love Charlotte for believing her. And so eventually, probably within days, but the timeline's not 100% clear within the documentary.
Yeah, it's a little murky.
The stepdad is finally informed of what's going on, makes that phone call I referenced earlier. Her pictures are removed. But you were asking me, now that I'm talking about the stepdad again, you were asking me about the dynamic.
Yes.
Tell me what was sticking out to you.
The dynamic between Charlotte and Charles, her husband. He's this older Englishman. He seems very proper. He talks about how he really had no idea about how the internet works. He didn't even use a computer until he was well into his late adulthood. I feel like he must be older than her, but you could just tell he is so aware of Charlotte having these like pet projects, and he just lets her do her thing because she is this tenacious, driven woman that will get results. He sort of has this demeanor about him like, oh, I'm just going to let her handle things. And they didn't want him involved initially anyway, as I mentioned earlier before I got completely sidetracked. But the minute he gets involved and he realizes that his stepdaughter really needs him, he lays down the law. He makes one phone call to Hunter Moore's attorney and says, all right, this is what's going to happen. You have 20 minutes to take down my stepdaughter's photo. That's not a question of if you're going to do it, you're going to do it because that copyright belongs to my stepdaughter. She's the one that took the photo. And if you do not take that photo down, Hunter Moore will be engulfed in legal battles and legal fees that will be exponentially worse than he can imagine. And you know what? My stepdaughter will have all her legal fees for free because she's my stepdaughter. And to me, it was nice to see Charles, the stepfather, react that way because it sort of felt like he didn't care, but he just probably had so much going on that the minute he was invested, he was going to make moves. I could see why they were like, okay, we'll spare the big guns until we really, really need him. And then he sort of stepped away from it after that. Like the photo got taken down at the last minute. I think they waited almost 20 minutes. Then the photo was no longer available on the site. And then Charles was sort of like, all right, like, you know, my job here is done. Charlotte, you can handle the rest.
That makes a lot of sense, pulling in the big guns. They may have not wanted to have to pull him in until they knew that they really needed to. He did know that there was something brewing, but like you said, he was kind of letting them have what was going on. There was whispers, there was shut doors, and they were trying to figure this out, but they finally figured out within days of like, okay, this is bigger than us. They're not removing these pictures or we don't know how. And that phone call, that's all it took was that phone call and 20 minutes. He had got involved, but then gave her the reins back, if that makes sense.
He gave her the reins back with the intention of having this chapter be finished because he even says that he wanted her to let it go and Charlotte wouldn't let it go. You know, and so like he kind of says that with like Charlotte's going to do what Charlotte's going to do. And thank God for it because Charlotte was able to eventually contact up to 40 victims of Hunter Moore's website. And as you mentioned earlier, she verified that 40 of those 40 victims had been hacked. So there's not just this website with revenge porn happening. This is so much deeper than that. There's this hacking scandal, which is very illegal. So if revenge porn is not illegal, hacking is. And that's sort of the track that they start investing more of their time into.
It's funny because Hunter just acts like, I don't even need to hack anybody, bro, to keep this website going. I get so many submissions every day, and we age verify, which we quickly learn plays a huge role in the demise of the website, because that actual age verification wasn't necessarily happening to a level that Hunter wanted people to know. And he's just like so nonchalant when he talks about like how the website started. He said, it all started with this dumb bitch that broke my heart. And then like somebody kind of giggles off screen and he looks, he's like, that's how it started, dude.
He was waiting for someone to giggle at that comment. There's this hacker ex-Marine guy that eventually works with Hunter Moore. And in the documentary, he says that Hunter Moore is pretty simple. He wants 3 things: sex, fame, and money. So it makes sense that he would be playing up this misogynistic persona of his, which I do truly believe is who he is at his core. But he very much makes himself a caricature and plays it up for the camera and for people who are in the vicinity to laugh at because he thinks it is funny.
When we're talking about James, we're not talking about the hacker for Is Anyone Up, who was hacking people.
A lot of hackers in this.
He got involved because he was asked if he wanted to purchase ad space on the website. He vets the website and he was like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
As Natalie mentioned, he's ex-Marine. He has this background of hacking as well. So he like knows how all of that works.
He also has a background of child sexual abuse. So he is very sensitive towards bullying and he sees this website and he is disgusted. He's disgusted and he knows something needs to be done. And he acknowledges that he wants to stop Hunter Moore, but you know, as a good guy, sometimes you have to fight dirty. And that's sort of what he did. He had to agree to place an ad on Is Anyone Up in order to understand and learn all the nuances of this particular website so that he could take it down. And so he sort of went undercover.
He sort of went undercover. James is another hero in this scenario. And I love one of the quotes that he says. When he was in the beginning of kind of going undercover, he said that he was thinking, I know I'm smarter than this guy. Yeah, I mean, and he really was. He really, really was. So he ends up being able to get Hunter into a corner to the point where Hunter sold IsAnyoneUp.com after about 3-4 years of being up. It was less than $12,000 without any of the content, because James did not want to buy any of the content. And he probably knew I don't even want that on my record. So he bought the website.
He bought it because, like you said, he was able to convince Hunter Moore that some of the photos, or a lot of the photos that were being uploaded were of underage girls. And even though Hunter Moore said that he had independent people verifying ages, they weren't doing a good enough job. When James was able to go on the website, he saw on his first look, he was able to verify a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old. So he really pressed on Hunter, hey, you're going to go to jail and things aren't going to look good for you. You need to drop this website as soon as possible. And Hunter started getting scared. He started getting scared because this is a party boy who wants to do what he wants. Can you imagine him in jail? So like you said, he eventually does sell for $12,000. And when Is Anyone Up is sold, James reconfigures it so when anyone enters that website, it's reverted to an anti-bullying website.
With a letter that was also part of the deal from Hunter Moore that was just basically, it was kind of like a surrender of sorts. But I mean, his followers,
so mad.
They were so mad. They turned on him in a second. You're a quitter. F you, Hunter. You're nothing. Spelled the wrong way, by the way. The wrong you're. Classic. Way to suck, bro. Lame. Like complete hypocrite. I mean, they were just so mad because to them, he had just sold the site. They didn't know how much or what any of this underage picture, I don't want to call it blackmail, but this convincing and backing into a corner by James of Hunter being the reason why it sold in the first place. Look, if there is one thing about me, it's that I hate waiting. Hold music, triggering. If it was a person, they would definitely be blocked. Earnin, on the other hand, would not be blocked. Earnin is an app, not a bank, that allows you to get up to $150 a day, up to $1,000 between paychecks. Tips are optional, and standard transfers take just 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers start at $3.99 and cap at $5.99. 5 million people are already using Earnin. Time just feels different when you're not waiting around to make moves. Getting paid twice doesn't make money scarce. It just feels that way. And with Earnin, it doesn't have to be like that. If you think about it, it is kind of odd that we have to wait to get the money that we've already earned, even though we live in a world where everything is instant access now. I don't know. Now that I've thought about it, I cannot unthink it. Download Earnin on the App Store or Google Play. It's spelled like earning money without the G. Type in the Murder Diaries under podcast when you sign up. It will really help our show. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Standard cash outs take 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Tips are voluntary and don't affect the service. Available in select states. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
He said, I'm human. I don't want to hurt people. I'm 26 now. I started the site when I was 24. So that gives you a picture
Oh my God.
how long the site was up. So it was only up for around 2-ish to 3-ish years. So like 2010 to, I think this is all happening in around 2012.
My eyes could not roll back far enough when he was saying that I'm 26 now. The website started when I was 24. He really did, this is Hunter Moore we're talking about, try and present himself as a reformed individual who saw the error of his ways, who saw the hurt and destruction that his website and his actions and his community that he had built, his little cult following, not little, it was pretty big, had done. He did multiple interviews about it on TV where he was given large platforms. And ultimately, it was a facade. It was a mask he had been wearing because he couldn't maintain that fake empathy he had been presenting when he was encountered by Charlotte Laws, who had called into one of the shows that he was on being interviewed for. And she presented him with the facts saying, I don't think you're changed. I know for a fact that we begged you to take my daughter's photo down and you didn't. And you can see him actively getting upset and trying to restrain himself. And he's just not used to restraining himself because he lets loose. And it's clear that he really is rotten to his core.
And doesn't she also mention in that call, I may have to rewatch this part, about that she spoke with the other victims and that they hadn't posted their pictures anywhere or given them to anybody. And I mean, again, he just kind of,
you could see
no remorse. He
no remorse, but also
down.
He doubles down, but he's sweating in that interview. He's like sitting there with his hands on his face and he's like wiping his grease off. Because
I mean, in his next breath, right? He's, I don't want to hurt anybody. And then he's doing interviews, kind of getting called out, trying to practice restraint. But then in his next breath, he's saying, my next site's going to get somebody murdered.
And he wouldn't take responsibility for anything beyond, oh, well, I'm 26 now. Like, this website was up when I was 24. Because he even says, well, I can't control what other people post. Well, actually, sir, you can control it because you own the website. When people message you begging you to take down their photos because their mental health has been destroyed, that they're at risk of hurting themselves, and you laugh in their face. Yeah, I think you are completely responsible.
Yeah, you own the platform. So you, A, have control of it, but B, you could also just like not be the one who has that platform. Like, that's the hill you want to die on. I just can't control what they put on the website that I own, when you could own any other kind of website. Clearly, you knew how to create a successful website and build a following. You could have done that with anything that was a lot better for humanity, or at least not parasitic like that. And to laugh about your next website possibly causing a murder, that's outrageous. You really see the pain in his ex-girlfriend's eyes, who was quite a bit younger than him, by the way. She, at the time, was 18 when she met him. He would have been in his mid-20s. Probably around the time of the website, around 24-ish. She looks back now as a grown woman in her earlier 30s going, what happened? Wow. Like, it's so awful to think of. And she tears up. She starts crying. I mean, no disrespect, but there was something to the demeanor. There was a slowness and a guard up, but yes. I think it was just very likely just something difficult to talk about because she was a bit complicit for years.
I wonder how serious their relationship was, because we do learn about the type of activities Hunter Moore was involved in when he wasn't running his website. He was promoting his website and himself at clubs and like a professional party goer. Women would line up to have sex with him, and
they were snorting coke off his ding dong.
Yeah. And he was followed by a journalist who said that Hunter would, in not so many words, force himself to have sex with a girl who said no a few times. Then he would go and make out with his male friends. And so, like, he was very much sexually open to everyone that he came into contact with. So I wonder, like, how serious this relationship was, because we do see pictures of them and stuff, but I don't know, was she just like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I felt similarly.
Was it an open relationship? Were they broken up part of that time? How close was she to him? Those are the questions I have.
I had some of the same questions when I was trying to figure out the timeline of the wild partying and getting together with Kira. I think there's a little bit of like before and after moments in terms of the way the documentary was presenting any kind of timeline, but also she was young. So I think it was probably very easy to convince her of whatever he wanted to convince her of. She does mention that there was just this like chemistry instantly once they met for the both of them. I found it interesting that he even had a girlfriend, given his current status. I guess something we haven't mentioned yet, and this kind of plays into it a little bit to me, is this was really built out of what we called in the early 2000s scene. Not emo. They kind of look like what you might call emo today. Like, if like a Gen Z saw a picture of a scene kid, they would say
they wouldn't know
like
the difference.
Emo. They might not know the difference between emo scene, pop punk, alt. This all really kind of comes together today in nostalgia, but scene was
it was its own scene. I mean, like, it was its own community.
Yeah, it was its own community, its own hairstyle. And you had like choppy hair.
It was a community surrounding a certain type of music.
And you had like kind of almost like a mullety type cut.
Yeah.
And you would like tease. I was not seen in high school, but there was plenty of kids I went to that were seen or were emo or were punk or pop punk. All that to say that there was a specific type of girl he was appealing himself to. He would have been like a heartthrob in that community. I hate to say it. So I don't think that it would have been hard for him to partake in everything that we were just talking about. And it wouldn't have been hard for Kira to kind of overlook things or be okay with XYZ. I do think that that is somewhere where the documentary did fail in terms of including that information so we could understand it, but maybe it was just literally behind her back. But there are so many pictures of them together too. So I'm like, was she Was she there? What was going on? And they wore girl jeans. That just came back to my mind. Do you remember the girl jeans?
Yeah.
Scene boys used to go out and buy girl jeans because we didn't have, for dudes, we didn't really have slim fit yet.
A lot of the kids I knew would still tighten, like, because we didn't really have skinny jeans. Only celebrities that paid like $400 for a pair of jeans could access skinny jeans.
They were bell bottoms.
Yeah. And so everyone sort of made your own. It wasn't until a couple years later that it was finally accessible to everyone. And so I think that's probably why a lot of the guys would wear the girl jeans. They were a little bit stretchier, a little bit tighter. They fit a little bit snugger.
By the time of this website, they had their skinny jeans. And you had like the emo kids with the Disney knees and like the
We're really dating ourselves.
The Tumblr pictures to come, all of that. Probably by like 2008, 9, we had those jeans for people. But Natalie's absolutely right. We had to go from emulating the 70s with our boot cut and bell bottom jeans to what became in the 2010s.
This conversation is more for the younger folk that are listening to us, because like
dive into nostalgia with us.
Yeah. Although, so I know I'm the one that brought up the whole Kira of it all, with her being complicit and wondering about the status of the relationship at the time. I guess I failed to acknowledge that sometimes there is this gap between someone's public persona and their private life. So I do have to wonder what her private relationship was like with Hunter. There must have been something there, because even when she's being interviewed about Hunter for this docuseries, she says at one point, she acknowledges that they were in love. She loved him. And that was part of why she was able to overlook some things, because she was so in love. But to me, I know she was young. I know it can be complicated. It's just hard to reconcile. How can you love someone who is so cruel to other people? And it just makes me think maybe he wasn't like that behind closed doors. I hope. I don't know.
Maybe in certain ways. I mean, only Kira could know. And I think that also wasn't necessarily something we got to know in the documentary, but it definitely was not a pro Hunter documentary. So I see why something like that wasn't included. I want to bring it back to the legal battle of it all, if we should call it that. Our Queen Charlotte doxes Hunter, and he is big mad. He's already mad about the selling of the site, and he's mad at James. And James just so happens to have friends, quote unquote, James.
Yeah, wink,
James, are you in I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble. We love James. We love that he had connections to Anonymous, because Anonymous is pretty badass and they don't take shit from anybody. All this is happening simultaneously. So Hunter's kind of on the attack, and he's attacking Charlotte because she doxed him. And so she released his literal address. But it's like, bro, this was happening on your website and you did nothing about it. This is karmic. That's how I feel about it. And then obviously he's mad about the sale of the website. So he's also kind of attacking James.
Not kind of. I mean, he full on calls him a pedophile. He says that he's going to commit crimes against not only James, but his wife, who was pregnant at the time, and their small child. And that's when James realizes, like, I've had enough. And when you know, he has, like you said, friends in Anonymous.
Well, and simultaneously, as this attacking of Char and James was going on, the FBI is on him as well. And they have had this name of an email, and they have finally, via an IP address, figured out who this email belongs to. And it turns out it was to a guy who had attempted to hack Hunter. But instead of getting mad or retaliating or pressing charges, Hunter says, do you want to come work for me?
Yeah, he employed him.
So it's just a mess.
It shows how many people and how many different sides Hunter Moore had to be targeted. He had to be come at by James, who took the side away from him. And when that didn't help, and when that actually made Hunter Moore an even bigger name, because he sort of became the face of the brand and this recognizable name beyond the scene community. We had Charlotte Laws doing her own investigation, contacting victims. We had the FBI investigating the hacking, because that's what they could investigate, because that was the illegal part. We had a journalist writing and investigating what was going on. And then we had Anonymous come in. They took a hold of all of his bank accounts. They donated every single penny he had to women's shelters. They declared him legally dead in the state of California, and he was dead for a month. They erased his social security number. And it was just like he had to be attacked from so many different sides because this was bigger than Hunter Moore. This was a way of thinking, and it was hard to take down from one angle. They all played a part in the demise of this site and what eventually happened to him when he went to court.
I wrote in my notes, one twerp versus Anonymous. This is Anonymous. They have shut down government websites. They have shut down PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
Are you out of your mind? Hunter was not going to win this one.
No.
There was no way. He did act tough, though. He said, Anonymous is a bunch of kids. Come on out. Like, either I'll get beat up or you get beat up.
Yeah, he was all bark, no bite at that point. I mean, he ended up staying with his parents, who eventually bailed him out on a $100,000 bond, which that's a whole conversation in and of itself of how could parents, you love your child, but you also have to let your child learn their lessons from their mistakes. And he had made some big, not nice choices.
This is just really not a good time for him because this is when Kira also hightails it to New York City. I don't even think she told him. She kind of just left.
She couldn't get in contact with him for a while after he had been taken into custody. He had his phone taken away from him and his mom had to call her. And then eventually he does get in touch with her. But at that point, she's, like you said, hightailing it out of California to New York.
Well, he got arrested in January of 2014, not long after all this anyways. And the irony of that scene when he has his total scene boy cardigan over his face so that there couldn't be pictures of him walking out of the jail after he got bailed out. Like you were mentioning, his parents bailed him out. Really? So you can have pictures on your website of people in compromised positions, but for you get out of jail, like, oh, we can't have your face. So it's just so
Charlotte brings
ironic.
that up, right? Like she
and I agree.
She cracks up at the irony and she says, you know, like, look at this idiot.
And he went on to take a plea deal as well, by the way. So it's just a lot of weakness showing.
Yeah. I'm not a surprise though, because only a weak person goes after other people like that.
His charges, by the way, as a reminder, were unauthorized access to a protected computer system to one account of aggravated identity theft. That was part of his plea deal.
Basically, they involve illegally obtaining people's private information and then exploiting it for profit, which is what he did through his site.
I can't believe he only was sentenced to 30 months, by the way, because that just feels like nothing. And some of these people's lives, they're still reeling from it. The hacker got 25 months to Hunter's 30 months. It just feels like not a lot.
No, it feels surprisingly light given how many people's lives were affected, ruined, damaged, and the thousands of people that ended up on his site unwillingly. But I think it was what they were able to do based on the charges that prosecutors had against him. They couldn't go against everything. They had to do it based off of the hacking, and that was like the maximum that they could legally prove.
Yeah, it's not like they could say, hey, you manipulated the woman who went by Butthole Girl, and so we're going to tack on another 15 years. There were limitations over what they could charge him with, because just being a bad person doesn't necessarily have a charge to it that can land you jail or prison time.
I think too that this case also proves that law enforcement had a ways to go to catch up to the internet, because there was so much, like it was the Wild West. There weren't laws in place to protect people and their images and everything that happened with his website. So I think that his trial and his conviction really got the ball rolling for a conversation about, oh, right, what laws and protections do we need in place for everyone out there who's using the internet? And Charlotte has been part of that conversation too.
It definitely was a lesson. And I think this is mentioned in the documentary as well, which is probably why it's at the forefront of my mind. A lesson in the internet lasting forever. I think we kind of knew it did, but we didn't necessarily understand that entirely. The way servers work, the way you upload that picture, wherever you uploaded it to, kind of owns it now. No, none of us read privacy statements. They're long, they're confusing. on purpose. All that to say, yes, also to what you were saying about Charlotte, she's helped create laws in 48 of our 50 states here in the US against intimate image abuse. There is no federal law currently, so our girl went to 48 of the 50 states. I'd like to know what the two that don't have any of those laws are and why. I don't know if it's just situational. I don't know if it was something that wasn't working out, or again, if it's just situational where it just hasn't happened yet. I'm curious.
Maybe they have something else in place, but we'll have to look into that.
Awesome, Charlotte. I wish she could have come on or something. That would have been so cool. Until our next episode, you know where to find us at the Murder Diaries Pod on social media. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. This video will be up. We do film and release video versions of DocuFiles on YouTube.
And don't forget, our schedule is Mondays, Tragic Hollywood, Tuesdays, DocuFiles, and Thursdays, a true crime case.
Look, if there is one thing about me, it's that I hate waiting. Hold music, triggering. If it was a person, they would definitely be blocked. Earnin, on the other hand, would not be blocked. Earnin is an app, not a bank, that allows you to get up to $150 a day, up to $1,000 between paychecks. Tips are optional, and standard transfers take just 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers start at $3.99 and cap at $5.99. 5 million people are already using Earnin. Time just feels different when you're not waiting around to make moves. Getting paid twice doesn't make money scarce. It just feels that way. And with Earnin, it doesn't have to be like that. If you think about it, it is kind of odd that we have to wait to get the money that we've already earned, even though we live in a world where everything is instant access now. I don't know. Now that I've thought about it, I cannot unthink it. Download Earnin on the App Store or Google Play. It's spelled like earning money without the G. Type in the Murder Diaries under podcast when you sign up. It will really help our show. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Standard cash outs take 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Tips are voluntary and don't affect the service. Available in select states. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
Needs your attention. Thanks for being here.
Bye.